Howdy, race fans. Welcome to another edition of... Oh my god, Verstappen could really win this thing, huh? This weekend we had the Formula 1 2025 United States Grand Prix, and I don't know about y'all, but I feel so comfortable speaking like an American. I'm totally psych, American bro. Seriously though, this weekend made me go a little insane, which is exactly what we come to Austin for, so fair enough. Circuit of the Americas, my beloved. Well, let's talk about everything that went down here at the Race Day Cafe. Okay, let me be real for a second. Way too much happened in the last few weeks, so I'm gonna do a very quick summary because we have a lot to get through. First of all, there was the whole papaya rules, McLaren are secretly favoring Lando over Oscar, debacle that happened after Singapore, which I don't know about y'all, but it made me start to believe Louis the Fly's theory even more. If you know, you know. There was also the trial of Alex Palou versus McLaren, which I'm not gonna go over because that could make up a whole entire video, but needless to say, it's been juicy. Unfortunately, Zach Brown may be more cooked than a Texas brisket. George Russell finally signed a contract with Mercedes. And Kimi too, yeah, nobody was worried about him. Notice how the press release does not mention how long the contract is. They asked George about that on Thursday and he said something like, oh, it's really long. It's like 52 pages. Damn, I was not familiar with your game, George. But anyway, even though he said it's a multi-year contract, I suspect it might only be for 2026. Toto, stop thinking about Max and see George's worth challenge. Also, McLaren randomly stated that Lando would be facing repercussions from Singapore. Once again, I really hate that whole McLaren fairness culture because it means a driver has to pay for what is just good hard racing, but hopefully it means Oscar Piastri and Mark Webber are finally being heard. I don't think we really need to talk about the one free practice session other than Nico Hülkenberg getting P2 and Isaac Hadjar's engineer randomly talking about Valtteri Bottas. We're all here in 2025, meanwhile bro is living in 2026 when Cadillac is already on the grid. Moving on to sprint qualifying. It's been a while since we had one of these and I forgot that they love to give us just the most random information about every driver. Like the FOM really thinks I'm gonna be surprised to learn that the British driver's favorite track is Silverstone and his favorite section is Maggots and Beckett's. Also, I need to mention this person's hat because it is incredible. A+ for effort. Other than that, Charles Leclerc is almost out in SQ1 because he runs into a lot of traffic. Nico Hülkenberg is in P5 in both SQ1 and SQ2 and finishes the session in P4. The Ferraris almost don't make it into SQ3, with Hamilton only passing Antonelli at the last second. Nearly gave me a heart attack. And of course, Max Verstappen gets pole position. The fact that Max getting pole is not surprising anymore is really telling of the state of things right now. But now we get to the sprint, which, as you can imagine, I'm not too excited to talk about, but I'm gonna try to push through it. The race starts and Max gets away, and then Oscar has a much better start than Lando, and then Oscar tries to get in between Lando and Nico, and then he gets pushed into Lando, and Lando's tire falls off, and Hulk's wing falls off, and Alonso also gets hit in DNFs. Yeah. Don't remind me. The way that this was literally the one race where McLaren didn't need to risk anything. All they needed to do was to be second and third, and then Max would only take 2 points from them. But I'm guessing Piastri saw what Lando did in Singapore and thought, okay, 2 can play this game, bitch. And when he saw an opportunity with his title rival, he went for it. It just didn't pan out especially well. I'd say this was a racing incident, much like what happened with Lando last time out. I don't think Oscar deserves a penalty, especially when it was lap 1, turn 1 at Coda. But I do think, if anything, the incident was definitely his fault and not Nico's, as I saw some people say. Sure, Nico was defending Alonso, but I don't think he expected Piastri to do that. Anyway, let's move on from the horrors, please. Obviously, there's a safety car after the incident, and at the end of it, George Russell starts zooming towards Max Verstappen, tries to dive bomb, but sends them both off track, so Russell has to give back the position to Max, and then that was it. George couldn't really do anything else. The one time someone can do something against the Dutchman lately, and it fails. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton overtook his teammate and almost passed Carlos Sainz for third, but ultimately couldn't do it, and toward the end, Lance Stroll crashed into Esteban Ocon and they both DNF'd. You know, Formula 1 has changed a lot in the past decade, but at least we can always count on Lance Stroll to continue to terrorize the grid. Ah, classic Lance. So the sprint ended with Max winning, George in second, and Sainz in third, and a 10-second penalty to Ollie Behrman for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. By the way that the audience cheered for Carlos Sainz for a good 20 seconds straight, that's just the cherry on top for this sprint. They're just like me for real. Before we move on, I'm gonna do some really quick superlatives for the sprint. For my sprint ace of the race, I have Carlos Sainz. Yes, I know that he only got P3 because of Norris and Piastri DNFing, but he started from P7 and then somehow made his way through the whole chaos, and he was able to keep his position ahead of the Ferraris the whole time. And I don't know, I just like the what the hell is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas energy that he brings to this function. And my sprint disgrace of the race is Oscar Piastri. Don't think I need to explain why, so let's move on. Now let's get into actual qualifying, which kicked off with Isaac Hadjar crashing out and red flagging the session. And he was super angry about it, which was understandable, to be honest. Q1 ends with the McLarens somehow not in the top 10. Q2 was pretty unremarkable, except for Lewis Hamilton going out on a hot lap when it was already clear that he was in. Let's waste a set of soft tires. Classic Ferrari clownery. In Q3, Alonso got himself some cheeky slipstream from Piastri, and toward the end, we heard GP telling Max that he was coming behind schedule, as in he had 30 seconds to start a lap and he was still halfway around the track. And indeed, he did not reach the starting line. Oh my god, so that totally means he's gonna get demolished by the two McLarens. Actually no, he keeps pole position just fine with Norris in P2 and Piastri an entire half a second away. Yeah, no shit, Simply Lovely. I've never seen a moment that deserved more of a Simply Lovely. Let's get into the race now, which unfortunately did not deliver. Seriously, I can't be the only one who thought the sprint was better than the race, and I don't even like sprints. The start was pretty exciting though. Leclerc passes Lando and Piastri passes Russell, thank god, and then through goes Hamilton and passes both Piastri and Russell for P4. By the way, Leclerc is the only driver in the top 15 to start on soft tires. Keep that in mind. Alex Albon spins out, brings out the double yellow flag, and oh, never mind. He's fine. Hadjar has shown a black and white flag for track limits. Then Carlos Sainz tries for a move on Antonelli like a million miles away from Antonelli. So naturally, Kimi runs into him and it ends with Carlos DNFing. Take it, Fernando. Karma. Thank you. The VSC comes out for a few laps and then there's kind of a lull in the action until lap 13 when Lando Norris goes off the track and Charles Leclerc snitches on him immediately like, Profess, we out to see cheat. We out to see cheat. Oh my god, if anybody gets that reference, you are amazing. Then we get into the start of the battle of Norris versus Leclerc, which, no joke, is like 90% of what made this race fun at all. And for now, they have kind of a very respectful battle because not only is Charles defending like crazy, Norris is also not really going for it. Ha, I'm gonna get you going on the outside. Oh, sorry, go ahead, my bad. But this time I'll get you. Oh, no, sorry, okay. I guess I'll try now. My bad. Go ahead. Lando, add a little bit of spice, please. A few laps later, Lando has his 4th track limit strike and gets shown a black and white flag. And he also finally passes Leclerc. And then Leclerc starts hearing the Jaws theme as Lewis Hamilton gets closer. The two Ferraris have a great battle, but obviously Ferrari steps in like a dad separating his kids and sends Charles into the pits. They put Charles on mediums, and at this point we're 23 laps in. And I'm thinking, oh my god, if Ferrari can make a soft to medium strategy work, I'm gonna flip out. At some point later on, Piastri gets asked if he would rather try to undercut or overcut George. McLaren, what are you doing letting Oscar decide his own strategy? Are you crazy? Isn't there someone else you forgot to ask? Anyway, Piastri pits for softs and has a pretty decent stop, and then Norris pits right after and has a much slower stop. Yeah, with that whole tire gun issue thing, I guess McLaren's pit stops are just gonna be like Russian roulette from now on, huh? Also, the slow pit stop helps Leclerc undercut Norris. By now, everyone's seen that Ferrari was able to do a one-stop strategy without using the hards, so they all shamelessly copied them. Like, just look at this. It's insane. Ollie Behrman then goes to overtake Yuki Tsunoda, who's like, okay, you can have the inside. Psych! Go mow the grass, bitch. Alex Albon also gets shown a black and white flag for track limits, and the commentators deadass said there's more black and white flag action than in Pirates of the Caribbean. Just an insane piece of commentary. We're shown this practically useless Constructors' Championship graphic. Okay, not actually, but who cares about the constructors at this point, low-key? And finally, we get to the second half of the battle of Norris versus Leclerc, in which Lando ends up passing Charles like it's nothing, really. All that for literally nothing. Thanks, guys. Also, the Alpines get side by side and they tell Franco to hold position, but he's like, but he's so slow. But then he says, you know what? Fuck your team orders, and overtakes Gasly anyway. An extremely cunty move if I do say so myself. But we gotta go back to the front because Max Verstappen takes the win of the race, followed by Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. And Max just barely misses out on a 7th career Grand Slam. Bro, fastest lap can you not ruin the moment, please? So uncivilized. That was the race. Now let's talk about my superlatives. This week's ace of the race is Charles Leclerc. Okay, maybe I'm just biased by seeing the Ferraris doing decently for the first time in a long time. But Charles not only had a great start, he also gave a defensive masterclass on Norris the entire race. Sure, he got passed at the end both times, but I pretend I do not see it. And he got himself a well-deserved podium. Lewis Hamilton doing the same thing when... My honorable mention for ace of the race goes to Lando Norris. Really, I'm just glad that one of the McLarens was able to keep the fight going in general. If the McLaren car is really dropping in performance, I'm glad to see that at least Norris is able to keep extracting good results from it. I enjoyed seeing him battle with Leclerc and beat him on sheer pace twice, even despite having been undercut by Leclerc. I do wish he'd been slightly more aggressive though. I guess those repercussions really were serious, huh? My disgrace of the race is Oscar Piastri. Again, I don't think I really need to explain why. The expectations are so high for Oscar right now, he can't afford to keep having flop weekends like this. I guess P5 isn't the worst, but I need him to be doing better than that. We need you to be evil, broski, not bad. They are not the same. My honorable mention for disgrace of the race is Carlos Sainz, because I just feel like the way he took himself out of the race was really kind of silly. The power of sparkles failed, I guess. But like the phoenix, Williams will rise again. Trust. For my strategy masterclass of the day, yeah, it's Ferrari. I know, Ferrari masterclass is an oxymoron, but this time I think I have to give it to them at least because they pioneered the soft to mediums, mediums to soft one-stopper. I feel like Ferrari took a huge gamble starting Leclerc on softs, but then it turned out to be the best strategy. In fact, better than that of those who started from mediums. So yeah, strategy masterclass. Enjoy it while you can, Tifosi. This week's underdog shoutout goes to Yuki Tsunoda and Ollie Behrman. I think out of sheer position, Yuki was definitely the best of the rest, since he started P13 and in only 7 laps made it to P7. And it's also confirmation that the Red Bull car has definitely improved. But I also think Behrman did a great job scoring some points for his first time on this track, presumably. And he gave the American fans a little bit of joy putting that Haas in the points. I do still think it's Hadjar versus Bortoleto for Rookie of the Year, but Ollie Behrman is definitely a close third. My favorite team radio is kind of tough because we didn't really have any funny team radios at all. So I'm gonna go with Will Joseph saying, yeah mate, I get it, the car is shit, because I've just never heard an engineer swearing the same way a driver does before, I don't think, and I just thought it was kind of funny. And I'm also gonna give a drama queen crown to Franco, your team orders Colapinto. I just feel like he didn't need to serve that hard considering he was going for like P17. Like, bro, it's really not that deep. For the best moment of the weekend, I guess I will say the championship being thrown wide open. Listen, as a Piastri fan, I need to look at the positives. And even if I don't like the fact that he's not doing well, I do have to admit that the season is a lot more fun when the championship is way closer. It's really turning into a roller coaster. Speaking of that, I saw a video of Kimi Antonelli going on the roller coaster that's right by the track, and it looked terrifying. I would still probably go on it though. The worst moment of the weekend for me was definitely the sprint turn 1 incident. Just end my suffering, please. I do appreciate Piastri's energy though. Going for a risky move is something a villain would do, but like, it's only really cool if it works, you know? Overall, I'm gonna rate this race a 3 out of 5 stars. Leclerc's defensive masterclass is truly what saves it, because otherwise the race was extremely dry. And lastly, let's review my prediction bingo. And of course, no new predictions came true. Yay. I guess we were kind of close to a Ferrari one too. Okay, not really, but let me be delusional, okay? But I want to know, what did you think of this race? Do you think Verstappen can really win this title? Are you desperately clinging to McLaren like I am? Let me know in the comments below. And I will see you all next weekend in Mexico. Stay fueled and go eat a hot dog.